It's afternoon now. Uh, my name is Daphne Dedry, and I will be your moderator for this session. I'm here to support you both and the presenters. So if you have any questions or need help with the Zoom interface, you can use the chat icon at the bottom of your screen, find my name, Daphne Dedry, and send a message directly to me. I will do my best to help you resolve your concern. The title of this session is Classroom 101, and your presenters are Brianna Davis, and the co-presenter is Verity Oliff. I'm still allowing others into the room at this time, but on the screen I have information about the Google Camp. This is really quickly if you connected with us on social media, this is the social media thing for I think Instagram, i.e. Google Camp. And then if you have any questions about how to maneuver through the Zoom, there's a help button there on your SCAD. And again, this is Classroom 101. Please provide any feedback at the end. It's very important. And we're going to release it now to your presenters. Thank you.
So much power.
Hello, everyone. So
Hello.
We're going to start it off. My name is Verity. If you just think of it as like the word verify, but with a T. My students always say, oh, terrify. No, keep the V in the front. And we're just going to go rapidly, but we want to make sure we have a gauge of where everyone is. And so Brianna is going to be putting up a slide that is a program called Mentimeter. It's a way of getting kind of the feel of the room, the temperature of the room. And so once she puts that up, then you will have the opportunity of either just clicking on it if you are on the slide deck that I shared, or if it's easier in the chat here, I've added it so you can just click there. So it will take you to a separate window, but you'll still have us available. So.
And I have the actual presentation of it, but the QR code is in our slide deck, which was shared in the chat. So you have some options there. There's actually 2 questions for you to answer. So while you're answering that, I guess I should introduce myself too. I'm Brianna Davis. I teach history in the Oxnard Union High School District with Verity. And so there you have it. If I were to answer this question, I have used Google Classroom for 2 or more years. So I guess that makes it, official, right? But there are 2 questions that we'd like you to answer.
It looks like everyone's very comfortable. Thank you for sharing that you're at the beginning part, so then we know exactly where to be. Oh, we got somebody from Oxnard. Nicely done.
Hey, is it someone we know?
Not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most people, their experience is the 3 months of panic that we had starting in March. So you are in good company here.
We totally understand.
So a little bit about my usage of it. I actually started Google Classroom in 2015. I was in a master's program and I was introduced to it and I thought, oh, this would be fantastic. Unfortunately, back then it was only available for districts. So I pushed and pushed and pushed. And eventually one of our high schools actually was able to get it. And we all kind of jumped on and cheated and became part of that high school, although we were not. And so that's how I started using it. And then after that 2 or 3 month window, we quickly went as a whole district had it available. So I've been using it for about 5 years now. So I've seen many changes.
All right, so we've got, all right, let's see, what's our next question? Why won't it work? Computer.
Hey, Daryl, how you doing?
Sorry.
Hey, pretty good.
Multi-desk usage.
Oh, is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, so there should be, and there's a second question. So if you answered the first question about your familiarity, now we'd like you to answer the second question real fast, and then we can jump in and get you caught up in all the things you need to know about Google Classroom. Or you never wanted to know.
And for those of you just entering, if you didn't find it on the sketch, I'm going to add the link to the presentation, and that has the link to the Mentimeter that we're working on right now, which is just a way for distance learning to really get to know. I use this before my synchronous discussions with my students, as I'll just ask questions sometimes based on current events. I teach English, but a lot of times just based on random stuff to kind of get the room. All right, where are we today? How are we feeling? And so it works really well.
And the best part about today is you are going to get to view Google Classroom as a student, which is what some people think is, you know, the one thing that they've always wanted Google to offer is teachers the ability to view it as a student. So unless you have a student who happens to be enrolled in a Google Classroom, you may not always have that luxury of saying, well, what does it look like from their perspective? So we are going to give you that perspective, and that's going to hopefully make it easier for you to understand and see, now I know how this works. So I'm going to go ahead, Verity, and I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to let you be in charge, because that's a lot of responsibility that I don't like anymore. Verity, you're muted too.
I was sneezing, sorry. Didn't think anyone needed that. Now you can hear me. All right, so I'm the one on the right. We are both actually Google certified trainers. I was in May-ish June, and Brianna was June-ish July. So we are new to this, but we are very good at teaching. As you can see, we're both ed tech coaches. So on our district, we're the ones they go to. So if you have questions, please make sure you ask us, reach out to us. We gave you our email, our Twitter. Just find us. We will be happy to respond. We are those teachers that it's lifetime support. So we will be happy to help you. Brianna's actually helped with her own children's elementary school level teachers. So she has experience at all levels. I help a lot with high school, but we can help with everybody. So what we're going to do is today we're going to cover 6 features. When you go back through the slideshow, you'll be able to click on one of these and it takes you directly to that. So we're going to start with our classroom basics, and Brianna's going to start us.
Yes, so if you have a personal Google account, so we cannot allow you to enter into our Google Classroom with a school account because we want to be able to show you what it's like as a student. So if you have a personal Google account, I'd like you to log into that personal Google account, and then I'd like you to go to the waffle. And so Verity's she's using her screen now. And you can go to classroom.google.com, or you can go to the waffle from google.com, and you're gonna select the classroom, which looks like a, well, it looks like a little, there you go. It's like a little blackboard, but it's green. And you're going to select that, and you are going to type in, you're going to use the join code, which we could throw in the chat. And you're going to join the Google Classroom Basics. So we want you to join it as a student. And then this is how you would also have your students do this. If you are starting the year remotely, you can actually invite all your students by email. You can invite your students if you had like a intro, like a getting to know you kind of back to school night before school starts, you could have all of your students join your Google Classroom as well. So from classroom.google.com or from the waffle, you're going to type that code, JTOZ3WZ. Hold on, a tiny side for me, but no, just need to open my eyes. And that's going to get you in, and you will be registered as a student. Now, once you have done that, you as a student, you'll get a notification, yes, that says join class. You have to type that code correctly. Otherwise, it will kind of spit it back to you and say, are you sure you want to do that? And so you'll type in the code JTOZ3WZ, and then you'll click on join. And then you'll have what you see on Verity's screen is all of the classes that Verity has joined from her personal Google account. And then if you were to see her professional Google account, I'm sure there's a whole lot more, because I know there are in my professional Google account as well. You can actually, once you've joined this classroom, you can move them around too. So you can like reorganize them if you want. So we're just kind of showing you this. As a student, you can also reorganize them if you want to put them in like period 1, period 2, period 3. And you can add a class. So Verity is going to, she's going to create a new class. And this is what you would do as a teacher. So we are in our personal accounts. So it's going to say, yes, you're doing this, but you're not going to use students. You can't use students. Like, that's just, Google said. And you're going to create a class. You can give that class a name. You can do just about anything you want with that class. And that way you then get a unique code. And that's the joy of Google Classroom, is every classroom has a unique join code. So if you don't get sent somewhere else that you don't really want to be. So Verity has just created a new Google Classroom. The idea here is you can create a Google Classroom just about anytime you want, but typically Google would like update things, usually like beginning of August. So if you're starting that planning process, the updates, when they're rolled out, they don't always roll out to older classes. For the code, you're probably going to, if you're not in your school, you cannot be in your school email because it's not gonna work. So if you can't get into the class, we're still gonna kind of show you so you can see from Verity's screen, and this is being recorded. So you can kind of like go back and watch it again and again and again. Verity, can you go to your home page of all of your Google Classrooms, please? And if you see that, so there's the hamburger over there in the left-hand side. There's hamburgers, there's waffles. I like to use food analogies because maybe I didn't eat lunch. I don't know. And you can organize these and you can see them in a variety of different ways. So classes is going to show us all of the classes that Verity is attached to. Then notice there's teaching. So those are the classes that Verity controls, that she is the teacher for. Then there's the ones that she's enrolled in. So you are now enrolled in this class as a student. But if you were in your Google account, which is how I combine school and Google, you would actually be the teacher. And then you're enrolled in this one over in your personal account. And then there's a to-do list. So it kind of tells the students, these are all the things that you have to do. So we can see Verity has a lot of assignments. And yeah, so if you're not in your personal Gmail account, you won't be able to join our little creation here. 70 of you have. That's probably the largest class I've ever had. Verity, can you go to our 75 Google Classroom? Because we're going to go over some of the things to know. The code is right here. JT, yeah, there you go. We'll give you all a minute to catch up to us here. By enrolling in this class as a student, you get the privilege or the option of seeing it from the student perspective. And then if you have other, like outside of your district organization, where you want to create like a collaborative environment, if you use a personal account, you could create a Google Classroom and you could share it with a bunch of other people that, you know, you just kind of want to connect with or collaborate with, because you can have co-teachers in a Google Classroom. You can also have, you can have lots of things actually. We're going to play with a theme right now. So with you can also change the theme. And if you follow the, you know, the big thing right now is obviously the whole Bitmoji classroom thing. But this is your header. So this is what you see at the top. Google has these kind of built-in galleries where you can use any one of those. You can kind of, but you can't really customize this. So if you choose this one, this is pretty much what you get. It will change the color scheme of how your Google Classroom is organized and kind of what it looks like. You can upload a Bitmoji if you want to, you know, add that extra layer of fun and excitement. You can animate your theme as well, but that's like next level. If you're just getting into the Google Classroom world, see if there's one of the themes that fits your personality, that maybe fits your subject matter. You can always find templates online where you can customize it with your Bitmoji if you so choose. I got a little into that in the spring, I'm not gonna lie. My banners were all animated and stuff like that, but I don't know if I'm gonna do that again. It was a little more work than I anticipated, but you can upload your own banner. So as an English teacher, I think Verity's gonna choose, let's see, I think she's gonna choose that one. Yep, the quill, let's go with that. I like that. And you can select a class theme. You can change that at any time. Where it says upload photo underneath select theme, that's where you could upload a Bitmoji, whether that was animated or not. It will gray it out though. So if you choose that option and you want to create your nice fancy custom one, it will not look exactly the same. So just know that going in, but it's still there and it's still pretty. And you know, it's definitely personalized. The other thing we're going to talk about here is the settings cog. So the wheel of fun, the wheel of fortune. So we have the waffle over there on the far right. We have the settings cog or the wheel, and then you have the hamburger over on the left. The settings cog is where you're going to find, that's where the class code is. And maybe if something had happened and you needed to, you had students adding or coming into your class after the beginning, you can display that so it's large. You can also reset it if something happens and you just feel like the security of that was compromised. But you can copy it and paste it into like a document maybe that you wanted to send home. And then you can do all of those things. This is the settings. These are your class settings where you have the ability to kind of customize and say, this is what I want to do. And so you can add a description, a room number, a subject, if you had maybe multiple periods of the same class. If we scroll down to the general, that's the class code, and then stream. We're going to talk about this actually in the next activity. So this is where you'll find all of these things. And we'll just go ahead and preview coming attractions here. Classwork on the stream, notice the default is show condensed notifications. Anytime you see an arrow, you always want to check that arrow because chances are there's something hiding or something like better. And show condensed notifications is definitely going to keep your stream to just announcements. And we're going to talk about that. Show condensed notifications is going to just make it very brief and then force them to go to the Classwork tab. Or you can hide all notifications if you don't want them to see anything. You have the power to change any of these because it will always ask you to save it. So Verity, you can make any decision you want. I'm going to give you the choice there. In the stream, you can choose whether students, if you want students to have the ability to comment. If you teach littles, you may not want that, because once they learn how to type, they could go and do, who knows, all kinds of crazy things. And then you could also change that to only teachers can post or comment. So if you want to restrict that, then definitely make it teachers only. It's totally up to you. And now that Verity has made some changes there, it will ask her to save those changes. We're going to come back to those cogs, that settings tab, in a little bit. So Verity, it's time for you. Oh wait, it's me, never mind. Okay, so the second activity that we were going to cover today, and I have it up on my iPad, Verity, so I remember, is the stream. So this is, Verity has us right now in the home page. This is what a Google Classroom looks like. So notice we have a stream, which just like a stream in like the wild could get very polluted. Ooh, look at me and my Google Classroom analogies. And that stream is where everything goes. And if you want to prevent frustration, you are going to want to hide all notifications, because the stream is where literally you could put everything, but then no one can find anything. So you can use the stream for posting announcements. So Verity, go ahead and like, let's just say welcome or something like that. You can schedule an announcement to post in the stream, but it's going to then get lost. So if we were to use this over and over and over again, eventually it's going to get a little polluted. And we want to make sure that we limit what you can see. Now I can always move it to the top, but then I have to, if I have like a semester's worth of stuff, I'm going to have a lot of things there. So Verity is going to just keep adding things because she can. But one of the one of the rollouts that happened in the spring is Google Classroom decided to, since Google Meet is very much an option for most districts if they weren't using Zoom, you could create a unique Meet link. It's kind of hard to say that. And I don't know if we're going to be able to do that from our personal account, Verity. Are we?
No, but I can show you on my
Okay.
regular account. That way no one has a question.
Yeah, and the nice part is with this unique Meet link, if you were using Google Meet, you would have a link that was strictly for this class. So if you taught a self-contained class, like, I don't know, first or second grade, and it was just first graders, and you wanted them to have that, you could have a unique Meet link where that is the link that they're going to use over and over and over again. And it'll be right there on, it'll be right there on the header so they can have it. So Verity, do you want to show them that real fast? It's your screen.
So if right here you go to generate Meet link, this is only on a school Google for Education account. So on a school account, you'll have this Meet link. You click on this, it'll take you to this screen here, and you can click generate Meet link. It'll automatically generate it, and then you can make it visible to students, or you can decide to not make it visible to students so that you always have access to it. But I teach high school students. I don't always want them to have access to a room.
Yeah,
that
Verity, we're not seeing your we're not seeing your English classes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're just looking at our other one.
I can change that. Now are we looking?
There we go.
All
yes,
right.
yes. Now we see extended essay 2021.
Yeah, so this one here, I may decide that like, okay, so I'm gonna go back. I have it right here, you click on it. I can actually start directly my Meet from this window right here. But if I don't wanna start my link from that window, I have way too much stuff going on up here. I quickly can decide to, maybe I want to change it. So I can go to my settings cog, In my settings cog, if I scroll down, you'll see there's a whole section for Meet that was not available in the personal one. So from the Meet side, I can actually come here and I can reset it. So maybe I had a problem, a student put it on Twitter, I'm getting people I don't want to have, which is just students from other classes. It's not going to be outside people, but students from other classes. I can always reset that at any time. It'll make a whole new link. I can decide to make it visible to students or to make it invisible to students. If I make it invisible, I always have access, but the students do not. So it's one way to make sure that you have some safety protections depending on the level of your students and also their willingness to deal with technology.
And for those of you who are wondering, you can only access this unique Meet link from your school account.
Yes.
So we can't show it to you in our little fancy personal classroom that we created, but it would be unique to you. And part of the reason that Verity and I say we have like lifetime tech support is because if you leave this session, and we've got a bunch of resources to share with you as well, including kind of like a one-page, like how to do all of these things that we're talking about, that might help you and kind of refresh your memory about, oh, wait, I forgot that I should do that. Google Meet is in the waffle, but if you link it and sync it to your Google Classroom, then it's only the people who are enrolled in that classroom who have the ability to join that Meet. So if you want to restrict it and you want to keep it so that it's, you know, you don't have to say and have like 6 million notifications, then you don't have to worry about that. And everything is right there. The stream, so we've given students the ability to comment. So, you know, that's kind of nice. Or not, no, I'm just kidding. And, you know, depending on the level you teach, you get the ultimate control. So you can decide, do I want them to actually be able to write comments? We can reuse a post. So let's say you made an announcement and you needed to share that with another class. So if you don't teach a self-contained class, I teach 4 different classes every day. And I have an announcement that I want to go to multiple classes. I can choose those arrows. So there's a lot of buttons and a lot of all those other things. The cheat sheet is coming. It's part of a freebie at the end. No, it's also in the sched if you have somewhere else that you need to be too. And look at that, Verity has the same issues I do. I'm not alone. If it was working, there we go. So these are the other classes that Verity is the teacher of. And as the teacher, you have the ability to reuse just about everything. And you can reuse assignments, you can reuse announcements, but the stream you're going to keep only for announcements. Don't clutter it, don't pollute it. Keep it so that it's just the essentials, and your parents and your students will thank you immensely.
All right, so I think we're on to classwork now. We're going to hit the next tab. Before we do that though, there's a few things that we can do also. If you click back on the hamburger, the left side, you can always go down and you'll notice there's another settings cog. I know they look the same, but this settings cog actually does other things. And so if you click this settings cog, you're able to change your picture. You also can decide how busy you want your life to be. So as a high school teacher who taught last semester 6 courses and did tech work, I truly didn't care what students, like they assigned stuff. When I had time to read it, I would read it. I did not want notifications. So I can actually turn things off. So I can decide if I want email notifications on or off. If I want them on, I can then further decide. So I would keep it on. There's some things I need to know from my students, many things I do not need to know at the immediate moment. So for comments, I can decide I want comments on my post. If the kids are talking about me, I'm not too concerned. Private comments on work, I'm very concerned. I have a very feedback heavy class, so I want to make sure I have that on. Classes I'm enrolled in, I may appreciate, like, if teachers are giving me work. If teachers are returning work, that's nice, but chances are it's PD, so the grades don't count, so I can get rid of that. invitations to join a class as a student. I want to know if someone's inviting me into a class so I can join it. Due date reminders, as you can see, I don't do my work, so I don't care if they remind me. They can tell me all day long. I don't have time for this. So I can, and you have to remember your students have the same power also. So if students are missing assignments, make sure you talk to them about what these important toggles are for. And then for classes I teach, late submission of student work, that might be important, but for me, that's just overwhelming, so I always turn it off. Resubmission, very important, because that means a student actually worked on the feedback and I want to talk to that student quicker. Invitation to co-teach, important. I want to know if a teacher's invited me to help them. And then scheduled, post-published, or failed, that's just way too much information. I'll know when students are like, no, you didn't give us any work. I'll figure that one out. So as you can see, you can adjust this. This is an important key feature on this side of settings. It is different than the original settings that we saw. So just make sure that you do this so that you don't become overwhelmed and your brain starts hurting from a flood. I like 0 inbox in my Google, in my Gmail. So if you're one of those people and don't want 1,500 messages, make sure you adjust your settings before it drives you crazy. So now we're gonna go back into our Google class. We're gonna focus on classwork. The classwork section itself has several buttons, as we talked about. So the first thing that you want to make sure that you know in regards to classwork is you have 3 windows basically. On this one, you only have 2. You will have 3 on the next screen. The first window is your topics. So all you do, you'll notice we have 2 topics here. It's great for organizing. In my classroom, I've already done it. I would show you, but then we have to keep sharing screens. But in my classroom, I always make my topics first. I've already made them for the new year. So you click create, you go to the bottom where it says topic. I then proceed to put in, and I do my topics based on week. So I'm gonna be week number 1. And I always just do it by the date. So we start August 26th through, and it'll be 26, 27, 28. It's a short week. And so I will have that, and then I just add this. And so my weeks will always be in this format, and I do it in one class, and then I just copy the class for every section I teach and then do the changes. It's just, for me, far easier to have it set up this way in regards to weeks. So I have my topics set up. Some people do topics by like what it is in a PD like this, very useful. In a class, I have students that have been absent. I was absent on August 25th. What did we do? Check Google Classroom. How do I find it? Go to week 1. And over here on the side, all they have to do is click the week that has the appropriate date, and it'll directly lead them to just those assignments that were under that topic, which for me is that week. So it's a good way to organize things just to make it much easier for you as a teacher and for the students. The middle part is how you decide on what you're going to create. In Classroom, you have 4 options. You have an assignment. If you click on this, this is where you get that extra window. So you're going to make a title for this. I'm going to say test assignment. You are then going to provide instructions. Simple, step-by-step kind of check off is the best for students. So I always do 1, watch video directions for the week. Especially in distance learning, I give them a video. The video is there. They're going to watch it. That's step 1. 2 probably is going to be some sort of reading. I am an English teacher, so they're going to do some sort of reading. 3, some sort of reflection on their reading. 4, some sort of application of their reading. And so I just break it down. On each assignment, there will be more information, but in here, I just want them basically to have a checklist. Check, 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 so they know what they're doing. Sometimes I'm going to add what might be like a bullet. Well, in Google Classroom, you can't add bullets. A hack to that is I use basically like a emoji. And so with that, with the emoji, I'm able to actually put in an emoji. For this chance, I decide that I'm going to put in like whatever we're doing. So in this case, if we are doing writing, I am going to put in, come on, I will put in like the pen and paper so my students know what I want them to do. So they will have the Bitmoji, and then I use the Bitmoji as a bullet point because you don't have bullet points in this. You can just do numbers. Some people use letters. There's just different things you can use. So it's a way to set it up so it's easier for students to see. You can click add. Under the add, you will notice there's 4 different things you can add. Google Drive, it links directly to your Google Drive. You can add something, you just click on it, decide what it is you want to add. Once you've decided what you want to add, so these are the slides that we saw at the beginning, I can choose if I want students to view the file, if I want students to edit the file. So view file means they just see it like you're seeing it. They can't do anything to it. It's essentially consumption of material. Edit is when I want them to be collaborative. So I want students to work on one document. Everybody has a give or take. It could cause problems depending on your age, depending on how you've taught them. They might erase the whole file. So then, we need to talk about that first. Or I can make a copy for each student, which is the same as me going to the copy machine in the teacher lounge and making 1,000 copies. All I have to do is click make a copy. Each one of you will receive that same assignment duplicated. So I don't have to make copies. Each person receives it. It will actually put their name. So it'll say, in this case, Verity, Oliff, and then this. So when I get the assignment back, I don't worry about students not putting their name. It automatically adds their name to it. 1 second. And right away, it's all presented. So if I make a copy, this one won't let me because I'm actually stealing from Daphne, our moderator. She shared this with us. So it's telling me that I don't own this. What am I trying to do to add it? It'll do the same thing for students. So it's a good way to make sure that you're only adding work that is actually yours, not adding someone else's assignment. I can be a cheat and just make a copy of this and then add it so I can get around that. But it's reminding me that it's not mine, that I don't own it. Another way I can add is a link itself. So I can send my students to Edpuzzle. I can send my students to Insert Learning. I can send my students to wherever I want them to go. I can also add a file, which is maybe a picture or a PDF. And I can also send them directly to YouTube. I rarely use YouTube. I usually use Edpuzzle because I want to make sure they're watching what I assign them. But you can send it directly to Edpuzzle also. I can also create directly from Classroom and create it here. I don't usually do this because then it's kind of locked into this classroom and I have to go through some steps, but it is possible. If you're running late, you can directly create straight from your Google Classroom. On the far side over here, you'll notice I have a choice. Do I want it to be for just this class or do I want it to be for other classes? I can do it for multiple classes at a time. Do I want it for just one student or do I want it for all the students? Perhaps I'm looking at this and I know this is an article that only Augustine is really going to be interested in. I can just choose Augustine and then you'll notice that I do all the same stuff, but it's only assigned to Augustine. Or maybe I'm doing a group assignment and Augustine, Alicia, and Amy are all working together. Then this assignment will only go to them instead of all the students. Or maybe I want all students to have the assignment. So it's a nice way to differentiate, a nice way to make sure that I'm selective on how I'm sending things. I can choose my points. I can choose my due date. I also get to choose not only the due date itself, but I can actually choose the time. It's set at 11:59. I hate this. So I always change it to like 6 o'clock. Google Classroom does not lock students out. Some teachers don't like that. Students can always add work. It'll just label it as late. So it kind of gives students heads up that they procrastinated too much. And then finally, you have the topic. So I can decide to put this under my topic I created. And I also can add a rubric to it. So that's assignments. Over here, all I have to do is click this and it will be assigned. Or I can click one of these. I can schedule. So I usually make my assignments, say Sunday night. I schedule it for 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday. I can just save it as a draft. So if I'm doing a lot of things in class and I decide that I'm gonna make it, but I just wanna shave part of it, I can. And then I can completely discard my draft. So I'm gonna do that. As you notice, there's also, I can make a quiz directly from Google Classroom. I can also do what's known as question. This is a discussion thread. So for anyone who's taken online courses before as a university student, you have those dreaded discussion threads. You can do the same, but it's good practice for our students. You put in your question or your focus material, you put in your instructions. Again, you can add you can decide, do you want a short answer or multiple choice? I usually do short answer. You also get a choice, the same thing over here. You can decide, do I want students to reply to each other? Do I want students to edit? My students found a hack. I usually have it open to edit. My students will put in one period and then submit it because they want to see what other students are saying, and then they'll go back and fix their work. So every once in a while I mix it up and I'll say students cannot edit, and then I'm stuck with a bunch of periods. And then we have a discussion on, original thought versus community thought. What are the value of having original thoughts? Put yourself out there. You can always go back and fix it if you feel you went too far. But if you don't make yourself vulnerable in your learning, you really don't have the material sink in. So you can always change this up also. And then you can do the same thing. You can do your asks. You're able to do the same idea. The last one that you have an option for is material. You'll notice we did this here. You have the one pager, the slide deck that we're using. And on that material page, you're able to do the same thing, except you'll notice there's no box here on if I do add something. So I add something from my drive. This time I'll add something that I actually own. You'll notice I don't have a choice. I'm only going to send it as content that is to be consumed. It's just view access. There's no work together. There's no, each person gets their own copy. If I erase it, it's gone. Whereas if I want students to have it, I have to make sure I do it as an assignment. I know we went really fast. There's two other things over here on the side. So when we look back at when I create material, you'll notice this little symbol tells me that I'm in assignment in case I missed the writing at the top. And then down here is actually my instructions. So it just tells me what it is I'm working on. And if I ever get lost, Google always gives me a heads up, and I have my little help button that I can figure things out. All right, so that is the classwork page. Do I have the next one too, Brianna?
No, I do. So we're going to talk about the people, and then we're going to try and get as many of those questions answered as we can. So this people tab is wonderful for parents and for teachers. The biggest and most important thing that I want to stress as the teachers, and Verity showed you how to change those settings so that you get the email if somebody invites you to co-teach. That was supposed to be my job. Sorry, I'll do that better tomorrow. But if you are a teacher who has the same, like everybody's a first grade teacher, I would strongly encourage you to invite your entire team to co-teach a class. And the reason I'm saying that is that way you all have power over each other's classrooms. And so from the people tab, so notice those 4 tabs on top are kind of the 4 things that you need to know. Stream, just for announcements. Classwork, that's where everything is. And then there's the people tab where you can invite co-teachers. So if you have an entire first grade team, you can all co-teach each other's classes. So you all can share assignments, you can share everything. Look at that, we're going to invite our director of educational technology in our district just because we can. You can have up to, I think it's 25 teachers in a classroom, so you can, expand that. And then with the students, so go ahead and invite Jay, let's just see if he's, and then for the students, this is where you have an option of, you can email all of the students at once. And so you can invite students by email. So if your student information system has it already programmed in, you can invite all of those students that you know for a fact are going to be part of your class, and you can do a mass email. So Verity can email all of you right now. She can remove you too, but you also have the option of doing that. I don't recommend it because if you remove yourself, you lose access to everything. Once students realize that, they find it to be extremely fun and exciting to be like, hey, look, I'm going to remove myself. So that means it never happened. Unfortunately, it's not good if you need grades or things like that. But You can be removed by choice or force, I guess. Muting is simply going to say, because we gave you commenting access and we mute you, that means you can't do that anymore. Sorry. If this were a student class, there would also be a guardian option here, but because you are probably, I'm going to guess, all over the age of 18 and probably your own parent or guardian, or maybe you have, children and you are their parent. From the People tab, as a teacher, I have the option of inviting parents or guardians. And with that comes a guardian summary. So if I have a list of parent emails, and I have a parent guardian email, there we go. So you have, we're back in Verity's personal account, okay, or her school account. She can actually send an email to particular parents without having to go through the student information system, without having to figure all that out. And notice she can invite those guardians. Once you've done it once, those guardians will populate in every Google Classroom that student has for the duration of their time in your district. So it's super convenient. As a guardian, I have two children, a second grader and an incoming seventh grader. I can actually get an email from Google, and I can set the duration. I can set it to every day. So I would get a summary email from Google Classroom daily that tells me what work was assigned and whether or not my child turned it in. I can also get a weekly summary. So every Friday afternoon, I get a summary of all of my son's Google assignments. And then it also notifies me if they didn't turn it in. So like we showed you the late work, you can set the due date and the time, but students aren't locked out, so they can still continue to turn work in after the fact. Parents, if they get the guardian summary, and that is something that you as the teacher have the power to control. If a parent changes their email address, they'd have to either notify you. You can always resend the invite if you know their new address as well. You can also have more than one guardian. So I've seen upwards of 4 to 5 listed as guardians. And I can send them an email and just kind of do that quick check-in to say, hey, is everything okay? I've noticed your son or daughter hasn't turned in work for a while. Is there something that I need to know about? As a co-teacher, you have the ability to share rubrics. You can share assignments. You can share everything so that it's not kind of overwhelming. Wow, Verity, you really do have a lot of classes. I didn't think that was true, but now I know. And with the option of having more than one teacher, and I hate to use this scenario, but if somebody were to get sick, you have somebody else who could take over that class, and that kind of gives the option of saying, hey, here's what I've done. I've built the class. I've built the basics. Now I just need you to kind of step in to fill in and, populate with assignments or things of that nature.
And that's what you're looking at here is our school is a IB school, so we have an MYP. So you'll notice this classroom here is just rubrics. If you look at the classroom, we have it by our year. 9th graders, 10th graders, they have the rubrics for the big assignments that are summative, but also shared in every class of that age. And then on the people, you'll see there's teachers. It's our entire English department and some of our SPED teachers that co-teach with us. And yet there are no students because it's just the rubrics. And so this way, when I make an assignment, as I showed you on the Classwork page, I can do my create. If I do my assignment, I have my rubric available down here in the corner. And so I can actually click, I can make sure that the rubric populates. When I click rubric, I can reuse my rubric, and we all just take from that shared group of rubrics. So no one has all the work on their hands. We can just share it together. So.
Okay, Verity, we have 2 minutes. You're muted too. Verity, you're muted.
Going back to our
There you go.
original classroom, we have the last section, which is grades. And on this, you'll notice that you'll have all your grades across the top. We don't have anything set up because this is for PD, but when you want to set up grades, you can sort by last name. You can see the class average. The way you set this up is under settings. You'll remember we went back here. You can decide to have no overall grade. You can decide to have total points or weight by category. I usually choose weight by category, but I do it very selectively. I do not show the overall grade to the students, but I add in my categories, and you can go up to 100% or you can have it at 0%. So for this, I usually have a summative, which is what actually has the grade, and it'll be each of our standards. So in English, I have summative for reading. And then I will add another category, and I will have summative for writing, and then I'll have formative for all of those. So that way students are able to see based on feedback, but it doesn't actually, the summative will have a score here. So it is always by 25%. I divide them all. But the formatives will not have any grade impact. It is simply practice. I want them to do their skills. And so I'll have 8 grading categories. That way students can see where they're deficient and help work on those skills. As a teacher, as a guardian, we're able to see that also. So that way they can see what help they need. So that is where you set it up in the grading category. Once you have this decided, it's going to be angry because I don't have 100%. Once you have this decided, you're able to save, and then that is how you have up your grading section.
Verity, can you show how to
Going
archive a
back
class
to our
real fast?
slideshow, we've gone through all of these quite quickly. And the last one, we've given you some more advanced stuff if you're interested. You can click on it. You are able to choose different things. All of these are resources. It's add-ons that make work in Classroom better. There's integrations for everything that Classroom does. So hopefully this has helped you.
Verity, can you show how to archive a class real fast? There were several requests for that.
Of course.
Super,
So
yeah.
if I, for chance, don't want this class, I just click on my 3 dots on the corner, and then I am able to click archive, and you'll say, do you want to make sure you do this? Yes, I do. You will then notice that the class disappears from here, and you're like, oh, but I really need that class. If I go back to my hamburger, scroll down to archived classes, I can click on that. You'll notice it is still here with everything inside of it. From this point, I can decide to completely delete it, or I can decide to restore it. So either one is depending on what I want to do. In this case, I want to delete it, so I will delete that extra test class.
And it will make sure, are you sure? Like Google is gonna make sure, are you sure you really want to do this?
And it didn't even let me delete it. It's too angry right now.
No, sorry. The one pager that several people were asking about is actually in the Google Classroom. It is also on the Schedule. So everything is like, we put it in multiple places for you. But if you were able to enroll into that Google Classroom, this was actually posted as a material so that it would be easier for you to access and not turn in as an assignment if that stresses you out that you have homework over the summer. But this one pager has videos, it has parents guides. So that's usually that big conversation of, well, how do I use this with students who've never used it before? There are parent guides that other people have created. And then there's videos. I even made a screencast in the spring from a student perspective of how to turn in an assignment. We didn't have time to go over that, but you can now play around as a student and figure out, how do I turn in an assignment? So Daphne, did you need to say anything?
I was just going to say at the very end, there's some Edpuzzles. If you're used to Edpuzzle, there's certifications of Google Classroom, Google Tools, and you can walk yourself through everything that we did to make it easier for you. And then we gave you videos for everything.
So Daphne, did you need to say anything?
I think we're good. I hope this helped everyone. Remember, if you have like concerns or things aren't working right, please, please, please reach out to us. We're far away, but on digital learning, we're really close. We can be right in your home office with you.
Yes, we can, if you invite us. Only if we're invited. We don't,
Thank you
don't
all.
want to overstep.